Have you ever wondered why some people just seem to have everything going right for them in life? Their relationships are great. They have a great career. They have great children. They have a great family, a great job, and everything just seems to go their way, and it's super easy for them to just accomplish all of their goals. And yet at the same time, there's people who struggle every single day to just get ahead and get by, and they feel stuck and they feel like they're in a rut, and they struggle just to even make any kind of positive progress in their life. It's not a coincidence that these two types of people exist, and today we're going to dive into what separates those two groups of people and how, if you're one of those people who feels stuck and feels like you're in a rut, we want to help you break through that and get to the other side where things are easy and things just happen the way that you want them to happen. I'm super excited to go into this today. My name is Mark Ames. This is my amazing wife, Lindsay, and welcome to episode number 2 of Manifested Wellness. All right, everybody, welcome back to Manifested Wellness. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is episode number 2 of the podcast or the YouTube channel or whatever we've got going on here. We're still building this plane as we're flying it, but I got Lizzie back on camera again, so we didn't scare her off too much from last week. How do you feel? So first, before we get started in any of this, I want to again put the focus back on Lizzie and just thank her for having completed her very first YouTube video ever. The one that we posted, episode 1. If you haven't watched it, go back and check it out. It's really just an introduction to us and kind of how we got started in this journey and why we're doing the channel and all of that. And I was not originally planning on posting that video. Lindsay did such a killer job that as I was reviewing the footage, I'm like, I got to make a video out of this. So you did great. Tell us a little bit about kind of how you felt during your first time on camera, how you felt seeing yourself on camera for the first time, and just what have you learned already starting this journey?
I was so nervous, even just seeing myself on there, because again, I never expected us to make actually a true video out of it. And the first day I was actually at work, I was checking my phone all the time. I was so nervous, and the feedback, and it was just overwhelming what everybody thought of it. And it just really lit a fire under us, and was really, really happy and made me want to do this even more. And
yeah, it was funny. So after we did that last one and we watched it and we posted on YouTube and everything, we posted on Facebook. Lindsay, I think it was the next day, like, do you want to film again tonight? And it's really tough. So again, with Lindsay being a physician, she works 7 on, 7 off. And so half the week, half the month she's working 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So it's kind of tough to do these. So this is her second day off. She's recovering after her 7-day stretch. And so we're ready to do this. But guys, today we got a really, really fun topic planned because this is going to be kind of the primer for almost everything else that we're going to talk about on this channel. And today we're really talking about the number one thing, like the one thing that really matters, the one thing that is going to set your life on a new trajectory and a new path. And that is mindset. This channel, we're really building around helping people change their mindset and improve their mindset and gain a more beneficial mindset that serves them and gets them closer to where they want to be and not farther away from that. And so we want to dive into kind of deep today on mindset, because this is the topic that if we don't clarify this right now, a lot of the other things that we're going to talk about later aren't going to make as much sense. And so we want to talk about kind of what mindset is, how we get our mindset, the importance of the mindset that we have, how we can change it, and then some practical tips for you guys to actually put into action right away to start trying to actually improve your mindset and start to go down this journey of personal development, of shifting your mindset, of becoming more aware, more conscious. So that's really what today's about. So we want to start by talking about what is mindset? You see this word used a lot. It's something that gets thrown around. And while I'm sure there is a Merriam-Webster dictionary definition of what mindset is, I didn't look it up. And so what we want to talk about today, I want to start off by kind of talking about what mindset is in the context of what we're going to talk about it on this channel, so that as we continue to move forward with these conversations, we can all kind of be on the same page about what we're talking about when we mean mindset. So I'll kind of start off, if Lindsay doesn't mind, and I'll kind of give my definition of what mindset is in the context of what we're going to talk about it today. and moving forward. And so mindset really to me is it's very similar. If we think about our mind as a computer, which it really is, it's probably one of the most complex computers ever designed. If we think about our mind as the computer, the mindset is the software program that controls that computer. And so our mindset is the software program that we have designed internally within our brain that filters and structures the way that we see and observe and interact with the world around us. And what's really fascinating about mindset is everyone has their own. Everyone's mindset was developed differently, and we're going to talk about how mindsets are developed. And everyone's mindset changes over time, but you can take two different people with two different mindsets and put them in the exact same room, in a room just like this, sitting 4 feet from each other. You can put them in the same space, same time, same scenario. But if you have two people with two drastically different mindsets, their literal experience, their reality, 4 feet away from each other will be drastically different. They will experience the sights and the sounds and the information that's coming into their mind differently, literally just by the mindset they have. So that's how powerful it is. Your mindset is the computer operating system in your brain that controls the way you interface with the world around you. It controls the way you interface with just life in general, with the people around you, with the situations, and how you process the information and what you do with that information. And so it's super critical to understand that you have this operating system running all the time. And we're going to go into how we develop that operating system and how it was formed and then how we can change it. But it's important to understand that is the thing that makes you who you are. Some people would call it your personality. We were actually listening to Dr. Joe Dispenza today, one of his podcasts with Ed Milet. If you haven't watched that one, it's about 4 years old, and Joe has been on Ed's podcast numerous times, and it was really great because he was talking about how your personality defines your personal reality. And so if you want to change your personal reality, you have to change your personality. And your personality and your mindset are very similar, right? Your personality is the combination of your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions. And that essentially is your personality. And your personality really is a reflection of your mindset. And so that's why it's so critical to understand is this is the thing that's driving all the things that you do. It's driving the way you perceive the world, perceiving situations. And so the cool thing about that is once you understand that it's just an operating system, the same way that on your computer, on your phone, on a tablet, you can upgrade that operating system when updates come out, you can do the same thing with your internal mindset. Now, the difficult part is that it's not as simple as just clicking download update, right? There's a lot more work that goes into it. But unfortunately, there's a lot of people that are running on Windows 95 right now, right? Like you're running on a 30-year-old operating system that you got when you were a kid. Someone handed this to you, and again, we're going to go into how that happens. And you haven't taken the time to upgrade from Windows 95 to some kind of new Mac OS, right? And so what we're here to do today is talk about how we take that Windows 95 operating system that you had when you were a kid and how we changed and we evolved that to create a new reality, a better reality that is more likely to serve you and get you closer to the way you want to go. So, Lindsay, if you don't mind, I kind of want to go to you. That's my definition, right? Again, not the technical one, but when someone says mindset in the context that we talk about it, like what does that mean to you, and how would you define that to someone that's like, well, you said I need to get a better mindset. What is mindset? Like, how would you define that?
How do you approach life? How do you start your day? How do you take on everything? And I just always lived in this certain lens of how I went about my life. And this is what you're supposed to do. And this is how you live your life. And it didn't really include mindset. It included how you worked and how you provided. And I just discovered something different about how I could actually affect everybody in my life with how I changed my mindset.
Would you say that, like, kind of before you went down the road of personal development, that your mindset was like you kind of went through the day on default?
Yes.
And I think that's the important thing to understand about mindset is that the mindset that we have had, unless you have actively tried to change it, the mindset you have today, if you haven't done anything specifically to change it, is very similar to the mindset you had 10, 20, 30, however old you are, many years ago. And so, the mindset is this accumulation of all the experiences that we've had, the people that we've met, the places that we've been, the things that have happened to us. And we get into this rhythm where we wake up and we do the same thing. And so much of our lives become habitual that like the mindset really is just like it's default. It's boot up the computer and whatever it's going to do without any additional input from you or change of direction. And so is that kind of how you felt before, that like every day was not necessarily the same, but like the thoughts were the same, the actions were the same, the results were the same, and like whether or not it was the results that you were looking for, it was at least comfortable because it was familiar? Is that?
I mean, I loved my life. I love our life. It wasn't that I wasn't satisfied. I mean, we have an amazing life. We have amazing children, but there's just something missing, and it was my outlook, how I viewed our life and how I viewed everyday experiences. And so I just approach things differently with a lot of different tools. I mean, started small, but it really can impact every day how you approach every little task, every
it affects, it changes it. Like your mindset controls how we react to things. And so one of the, I can tell you what your mindset is, and one of the steps that we're going to talk about really changing your mindset, the very first step, and I don't want to jump too far ahead, but is just self-awareness of identifying the mindset that you have now. And so if you have difficulty identifying the mindset you have now, that's one of the things that we really need to work on, is just identifying and gaining this self-awareness of like, what operating system are you running? Are you still stuck on Windows 95? If you are, that's cool, because the great news is we can upgrade you, but you need to know where you're at now. And so the way that you can identify things about your mindset is the way that you speak about yourself, right? It's the I am statements. It's the when you react to the same situation the exact same way every single time, and it's not the way that you would want to react in that situation, but you say things like, well, that's just who I am. I have X personality. In my family, I was raised. Those are all the statements that will cue you in very heavily about your mindset and where it came from. As if you're like, well, in my family, we this, or my parents raised me to this, or that's just the way I am, right? That's a big one. Well, that's just the way I am.
And that's just boxing you in.
Yeah. And so one of the things we want to go into the next are the types of mindsets. And there's really two types of mindsets. There's a great book by Carol Dweck called Mindset that really lays this out. So if you want to go farther in depth than what we're going to go into today, pick up Mindset by Carol Dweck. Good book. She really goes into this. And what she points out is it's a
little slow, but
it is a little slow. If you get it on Audible, put it like 2x speed, burn through it. But there's very good information in there. And the two types of mindset that she really outlines is a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. And at the end of the day, those are kind of the only two mindsets that exist. And so the fixed mindset, which is what most of us are trapped in. Most of us are trapped in a fixed mindset. And you, successful woman, physician, mother of 3, like all of this stuff, you were still stuck in a fixed mindset, right?
No, I was very fixed. I mean, even, with my career, getting into medicine, my fixed mindset was, I'm in medicine. That's what I'm going to do. I'm a mother. I'm a doctor. That's all I can do. And I'm going to live my life. I'm going to be fulfilled. But that was very, very fixed. And now that I've changed in my personal development, there's so much more I can do. And I can grow and I can actually expand and do medicine, but also use medicine and grow and to share this personal development with everybody and help patients in different ways, just other than medicine. I mean, there's just
I think one of the things that you saw in your practice was that we spent a lot of time in medicine treating the symptoms.
Yes.
Right? And that's really what modern medicine is, treating the symptoms. You come in and we go, this is what externally is wrong with you, and we're going to do this to address that symptom. And so we're treating the symptoms, but very rarely do we go so far as to treat the causes of the symptoms. And I think the reason that is that very often the causes of the things that are wrong are not things that she can help you with if you come into the emergency room. It's just not. The causes of so many of these problems start right up here. And I think what she saw through her own personal development journey, you can speak to this, but like you saw that there's a lot of ways beyond physically helping people and treating physical symptoms that you can help people live better lives by helping them fix the things up here that, frankly, as we're starting to learn, a lot of the changes up here can prevent you from ever even having to go see her in the hospital, right? Now, again, bear in mind that as we're talking on here, Lindsay is a medical doctor. Nothing we say on this channel should ever be construed as medical advice. The information that she gives as a medical doctor is not medical advice. Don't ever take it that way. But that is her training. That is her career. And so she can kind of offer some insight into that. But I think that's one of the things that you saw was like, gosh, if I could get this person to see this and make this change in their life, I wouldn't have to see them coming in here every 2 months with the same problems, because the same problems I can just keep treating. But until they fix the cause of all this, we're never going to get you healed. Is that part of it?
Yeah. There's so many people that are defined by their disease.
Almost addicted to it, probably.
Well, I mean, they identify with what their problem is and they live by it. And it's not a terrible thing. That's how most people start. But if you start identifying with that disease, it becomes a part of you, just like having a positive mindset. If you have a diseased mindset, if you're identifying with that, it's going to be a part of you.
Yeah. It's what's funny is we've more or less proven through enough time that your thoughts can make you heal. And so if your thoughts can make you heal, can your thoughts also make you sick, right? If they can make your health better, can they make your health worse? And there's scientific data that supports this, that shows that the way that we think about a certain thing affects it. There's a lot of studies about just understanding that when we become aware of certain things, it changes the physical reality. You can do the exact same thing. I've talked about this in some different videos on a different channel about once you fix your mindset, the crazy thing is that the results you get for the same input, you can get multiple X results with the exact same action just by having a change in mindset. They did a study with housekeepers. They were maids. And so there was a group of housekeepers, at a hotel, on their feet like 8, 10, 12 hours a day, vacuuming and sweeping and walking around and all that stuff. Like that's actually really, really good physical activity. And so they polled all of these hotel housekeepers to ask them like, how much exercise do you get per week? And like a third of them said they got zero. Like a third of these workers said they got zero exercise. Some said they got moderate, and some actually did some exercise. So they took that group that said they got zero exercise, and they took all this health data from them, their systolic blood pressure and all of these different health markers. And then after that, they took a control group and they left them do the same thing. They took the other part of the group and they gave them a pamphlet explaining to them how their career actually is great exercise. And it's like, hey, did you know that vacuuming burns 46 calories in 15, like all these different things, to where they literally just made these workers aware that what they were doing actually was exercise. They went back a set number of time later and they took the control group and they took the other group that was made aware that what they were doing was exercise, and literally the health indications across all of the people who just knew that what they were doing was healthy for them had markedly better health results at the end of that, with no change in activity. They were doing the same thing. They didn't do anything different. Same activity, two groups of people, one who who had the mindset that this is just my job, this is what I do, and the other ones adopted the mindset that like, oh wow, not only do I get to come to work, I'm actually getting healthier here. Well, guess what happened to those people? They got healthier. And that's one of hundreds of examples of things like this, where your mindset literally affects your physiology. Like this is not just wishful thinking, some kind of mystical, wish out there. This actually does change your physiology. It changes how your body is wired to handle and to deal with all of this kind of stuff. So those are the two types of mindsets that we have, right? We have fixed and we have growth. And so, for me, the fixed mindset is the person who says all of those I am statements that you identify with a certain set of behaviors, a certain set of beliefs, and you're never going to change from that. The growth mindset, on the other hand, is the belief that with enough effort put into getting better at something, you can get better at anything. Right? If you work hard enough at something, you can get better at it, no matter what that thing is. That's the huge difference. If you have ever seen Impact Theory with Tom Bilyeu, he talks about the only belief that matters, right? Tom says there's one belief that matters, and it is the belief that if you do something consistently and work at it, you will get better at it. And that's the key to the fixed mindset, right? If you believe that, if you believe that your intelligence is fixed, that your skill set is fixed, that your financial situation is fixed, that your personality is fixed, then you are in a fixed mindset. You don't believe there's anything you can do, and you are now a victim to your circumstances because you have been dealt a deck of cards, and that's your deck, and that's what you've got to play. The growth mindset says none of those things are fixed. All of these things can be changed if you're willing to change. And so if you wouldn't mind, I think now that we've kind of identified those, I really want to get into helping people learn how they can change, how they can go from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. If you don't mind, kind of talk a little bit about your journey and just give them maybe 1, 2, 3 things that you kind of did that took you from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset and how that played out.
So like we talked about on the last episode, it started with the podcast, and that was my one small step. And every morning I listened to a very positive podcast, and that started my day. And it just grew from that. I joined a book club that was all about personal development. And not to have any plugs, but The Magic, really, that book.
And to help them understand what the magic is, so a lot of people have probably, if there's a book called The Secret by Rhonda Byrne, that book was then made into a movie. It's been viewed by well over 500 million people at this point in time.
It's a little old-timey, but
yeah, the secret is kind of at its core where like the law of attraction got kind of popularized. But tell people a little bit more. We'll probably do like a whole nother.
Yeah, it deserves its own
couple
episode.
Things on the magic. But tell people a little bit about the magic and kind of what some of the things that you were doing during the magic. Like what it is and what some of the things that you were doing during it that kind of helped you.
So, the podcast I listened to, Fran, she does the magic once a year with her book club. And I was like, oh, I have to do this. So I did it, and it was transformative. It's gratitude. It's a very simple, simple practices. And
it's like 28
days.
I have not done it personally, but I've seen her do it multiple times. I've seen her not only do it personally, but I've seen her coach other people through it and really kind of help them. So it's 28 days, and is it like different tasks that you do each day, or how does it work?
Very simple task. And it's not simple. It's grueling. It's 28.
Simple but not easy.
But it's life transformative, and it's about gratitude. Like if you can be grateful for what you have, doesn't matter what you have. If you're grateful for what you have in the moment, everything's possible. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's just be grateful for what you have. And there's so much more to it.
It's hard to live in a sense of scarcity when you're being grateful at the same time, you know, and I think that's one of the important things about gratitude and starting with gratitude. And I think Lindsay and I would both probably suggest that one of the best things you can do to really start your personal development journey is just literally start by taking an inventory of all the things in your life right now already that you have to be grateful for. So with that in mind, tell me a little bit more about some of the things that you did in the magic and just in your personal development journey in general that helped you with kind of expanding your gratitude and finding all the things in life that you were grateful for, and then what impact that had.
So in the magic, you write in a journal 10 things that you're grateful for and why you're grateful for. So I am grateful for this because of this, and it's 10 every day for 28 days. It's a lot. But
do they have to be different, or can they repeat?
Everything is supposed to be different.
Oh wow!
So it's a lot, but you're grateful for everything, for the house that provides shelter, for your car that gets you there safely. There's so many things, and I carry that on every single day. I do a gratitude journal, but it's only 3. But it's it pertains to usually my day that day, and almost always involves Mark and my family. And it just gives you a different perspective, and that's how you start your day. I mean, there's no other way to start your day than being grateful. And yeah, that's, I think, my biggest tool.
Yeah, when it comes to mindset as well, the two most important times of your day is how you start your day and how you end your day, right? And we call that bookending your day. You think about a pair of bookends, the beginning and the end. Those are the two probably the most important parts of your day, because you're setting the stage, one, for you've just come out of this sleep. And when we're in sleep, our subconscious is really, really going active. And that's why we have a lot of the vivid dreams that we have. That's a lot of things in our subconscious that we're working out. We're actually being fairly productive in sleep. And we can go later into more detail about like what actually happens when we sleep and why sleep is so important and what we get out of that. But we're transitioning from that state where our subconscious was really in control for the last, 6 to 8 hours. And now we're transitioning to a time where our conscious mind is in control. And one of the things that, on the Ed Milet, Joe Dispenza podcast that we were listening to, that Joe was talking about is, with starting your day, so many people resort back to what he calls the familiar past, right? And that's where most of us live. And if you're in that fixed mindset, most of your time is spent living in the familiar past, because you're repeating the same things over and over. You're getting the same inputs. You're having the same reaction. All the same neurons are firing in the same way. And it just becomes habitual to the point that you probably don't even realize it. And the day ends, and that day was just like the day before, and the day before, and the day before. And there's probably 100 things that happened during the day that you wish had happened differently. But because we're on autopilot, because this operating system that we have is just running the default mode, right? We haven't given it any inputs to change. We keep getting the same results because we keep doing the same things. And so when we live in the familiar past, we're going to get the predictable future. And that's, again, from Joe Dispenza. It makes sense. If all we're doing is living in the past, we can't expect to get anything different in the future. And so the big key to starting your day the right way is not living in the past, is not revisiting all of those old experiences, the old emotions, the things that have happened in the past that are giving you the reactions that you're doing today, and starting a different way. And so if the way that you're starting your day normally is in traffic and you're frustrated and you're angry and all of that, your body's looking for that emotion. It's been conditioned that in the mornings we're frustrated and we're angry, and the whole like, don't talk to me until I get my first cup of coffee. Now I drink a lot of coffee, but like, you can talk to me before I get my first cup of coffee. I might be a little bit more tired, but like, I don't rely on that external stimulus to shape how my day is going to go. And so again, too many people, even just little things like that, I would caution you, if you're that person that's like, oh, I can't talk to people before I have my first cup of coffee. You're probably right, but not because of any kind of physiological thing that's actually happening, but you have identified as a person that can't be talked to until you have your first cup of coffee. So be very, very, very careful about how you speak about yourself, because how you speak about yourself really defines how you feel about yourself. How you feel about yourself ultimately is going to make the wiring that develops, this program. And so starting your day in a different way, starting your day with gratitude, particularly if you're trying to live in abundance. We just same way that there's a fixed mindset and a growth mindset, there's scarcity and there's abundance, right? There's lack and there's plenty. And so it's very, very difficult to live in a state of scarcity when you're simultaneously being grateful. Those two things really can't exist in the same space. It's very, very difficult to be thinking about all the things that you're grateful for and simultaneously be angry at the world. It's very, very difficult to do. And so that's, I think, one of the easiest things you can do, right, is like gratitude. Just start there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, how can you go about your day and be angry if you realize how grateful you are? Even if you're in the worst of circumstances, there's still amazing things that you have in your life. And I'm not saying that like I'm in the worst of, the depths of despair. But just starting that day, it changes everything. And everybody has a hard job, but like, I have changed my outlook on how I approach my day, my work day. And it's so much different now that I've found gratitude.
Well, the thing about gratitude too, that's really cool And the way all of this, again, the way a lot of this stuff works is when you start focusing on the things that you're grateful for, what you're actually doing and chemically what you're doing is you're making new neural connections, right? So the reason that the reason that we feel stuck and we feel in a rut is because all of those thoughts that we have, which then create emotions, which then turn into actions, and then we get a feedback loop, and then that creates other emotions that
Joe
reaffirm.
Dispenza.
Yeah, and that reaffirms all of these things. And so, if you've heard the saying, neurons that fire together wire together. And that's very, very true. And so the same way that, again, going back to like an operating system, your brain is super lazy. It's very calorie hungry. Your brain takes up between 20 and 30% of the calories that you consume every day go to your brain. So it makes up a very small portion of your body, but calorically, it's very, very energy hungry. It needs a lot of energy to function. And so because of that, it tries to be as efficient as it can be. Well, in the same way that when you have your computer and you have a little icon that takes you directly to where you want to go, that's a shortcut, right? It's like, hey, I've got this whole operating system, but if I just click this button, it'll take me right where I want to go. Well, your brain tries to do the exact same thing. It tries to create these shortcuts to where it goes, oh, I got this input. I know what to do. I know what chemicals to produce. I know what reaction to have. I know how to feel about this because I've done it so many times. It's a shortcut. And so what's actually happening inside of your brain is something called myelination. And so literally, if you have these neural connections where you get an input and you do the exact same output every single time, your brain's going to go, oh, cool, we can make a shortcut here. Let's make this more efficient. Let's actually wrap these neural connections with myelin, which is kind of a fatty insulation that will make that transmit even faster. And so it literally hardwires into your brain. You're actually creating these deep neural pathways where when that input happens, without any additional thought of yours, you're getting the output immediately. And that's the whole default mode, is you have literally created these shortcut neural pathways between an input that comes from the outside world and how you react to it. And so you literally are hardwired. And if you can pattern interrupt that, if you can break that up and not live in that shortcut mode, and thinking about gratitude is great. And one of the cool things that I found it does is it makes you so much more aware of all the other good things that happened that day that would have otherwise gone unnoticed. And so when you start your day with gratitude, you then are seeking gratitude, especially when you know you have to come up with 10 new examples every single day for 28 days. You're going to be thinking during your day, right? You're almost going to be doing homework for tomorrow as you're going through your day going, man, what are the 10 best things that happened today that I can write about tomorrow so I don't have to think about it at 6 a.m. with my cup of coffee as I'm, outside writing this out. And so what's going to happen is you're going to be cued into things that you can be grateful for. You're going to start to see a lot more of those things that were probably already happening. And that's the crazy thing. And that's why I say you put two people in the same room with two different mindsets, they will experience the world completely differently. They don't experience the same world because their minds are cued into different things. The person that has that growth mindset, who's cued in to abundance, who's cued in to gratitude, they're going to be sitting in the room and certain things are going to happen. And it's like, oh, look at how amazing that is. Oh, I'm just, I'm so happy I'm so lucky that I was even invited to be in this room. While the other person is thinking, man, it's kind of hot in here. I wonder when this is going to end. I really need to go to the bathroom. No one's even coming in here, right? It's the same situation, but one person is seeking out things to be grateful for because that's how their brain is wired. The other person is just looking for all the things that are wrong with the situation.
And everybody knows, like, they've been in a room with people like that, where they just suck the energy out and they're just a negative Nancy. I hate to say that, but, and you can approach it completely differently. And with gratitude as well, like there's things that happen in a daily practice where you're like, I can't believe this happened. And there's so many synchronicities. I've texted Mark. I'm like, this happened.
All the time.
Everything happens. Like this came to, it's simple things even at work where I'm like, I was talking with a patient about this and I'm like, oh, let's see what this specialist says. And the specialist walks in and I'm like, that's just amazing. Like there's just so many little things that if you weren't in a grateful state, you wouldn't appreciate. But when you are, it just comes to be and it changes everything.
Yeah, it really does. It really does change everything. Like think about that for a moment. Think about going through your day, the day that you go through right now. and think about finding an extra like 10, 20, 30 things that happen today that you could be grateful for. Like, and imagine doing that every day. How would that change the wiring in that brain? And how would that change those connections such that the next time something happens, instead of looking for all the bad stuff that could be going on with it, like you're cued in to like the great parts about it? Because again, the situation doesn't change, the reality doesn't change, but the mindset that we have changes the lens that we see it through, such that we can literally create a different world, a completely different world, just by what we focus on. And so I hope that's a great primer, at least to kind of get to this point. And so
I feel like we've talked a lot about gratitude. I think that was going to be like its own episode, but I mean,
gratitude is one. And some people would say like, I don't have anything to be grateful for. You know, we have so much more to be grateful for than we could ever possibly imagine. And I would challenge you to make a list of 100 things right now, like 100 things right now that you're grateful for. And you're like, I can think of 10. And depending on where you're at in your journey, coming up with 10 things that you're grateful for might be difficult, but spend enough time and get a list of 100 things. And what will happen is by the time you get to like 80, they're just going to start rolling, because you're already going to be like cued in. We're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that. Because
so many things.
I
have running water. I mean, I have like,
and a lot of times,
air conditioning.
And so here's the thing that generally makes people grateful for stuff is it usually takes trauma or disease or diagnosis or something for people to wake up and then be like, oh my gosh, then they look hindsight like I should have been so grateful for this, because now I don't have that. And it's very saddening to see that people can't be grateful for things until they're gone. You know what I mean? Please
don't wait until you have cancer or a horrible disease. Like, there's so many things to be grateful for, and live your life.
Yeah,
before that happens.
Don't wait to be grateful until it's taken away from you to be grateful in hindsight. Be grateful today.
Not that we haven't had bad things happen to us. I mean, we both have our shares of negative experiences, but I mean, don't wait until it's too late.
And the other thing with mindset as well, and this is a huge shift when the negative things, and again, I would even push back a little bit on that. And I think one of the biggest issues that we have with our mindset is judgment. And so much of it is judging ourselves. We judge other people, obviously, but we judge ourselves so much. We judge the actions that we take and the things that we do and the things that we don't do. And then we beat ourselves up when we do things that we shouldn't. And it's like, oh, I always, and then we go back again to the I am statement. So I always do that. Every time this happens, I do this. And I guess that's just who I am and what I'm meant to be. And again, those are all of the things that you can change. Anytime you have that thought of, well, this is just who I am, it's who you are today. But the cool thing about all this is it doesn't have to be who you are tomorrow. And so one of the important things when anything happens in your life is taking the approach of, how is this happening for me and not to me? And that's a huge differentiator that you'll find between someone with a fixed mindset and someone with a growth mindset. As someone with the fixed mindset, everything that happens that could be construed as negative, because again, we're constantly judging. We're judging everything that happens as good or bad. And this thing happens and our automatic judgment goes, this is bad. This is bad. Whether it was my fault, someone else's fault, it was bad. So if we can take the judgment away a little bit and stop judging ourselves and stop judging others, it puts us in a different frame of mind to where we can then just be more open to analyzing it. And it's like, okay, maybe this things aren't good or bad, things are. And then every situation should have something that I could learn from it. And so if you think about it that way, that's something happening for you. Like this thing happened that you may perceive as negative, as bad, and objectively from the outside, yes, it may be a negative, bad thing. But if you can shift your mindset to go, what lesson could I learn from this? And how is it possible that this was happening for me and not to me? And that takes you away from the victim mentality, which leaves you in the fixed mindset. When you're a victim, you are not in control. And the person who's not in control is fixed. They cannot change. And when you start to think about something happening for you and something being to your benefit, even if on its outside it was negative, what lesson could you take away from that? Could you use what you learned in that experience to help someone else or to help yourself in the future in the same, situation? So think about how things could be happening for you and not to you. And that's going to take you out of that victim mentality and put you back in control. And then once you start thinking about that, now that puts you in the driver's seat to then do something with that and move forward and erase the past and change the future, right?
So, I mean, I love my life. I have amazing parents. I mean, but I was definitely raised in a very fixed mindset. And
most of us were.
Yes. And everything happened to you. And it took, oh my God, 35 years to actually change that mindset. But it doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't matter when you can find that you can actually change everything in your life. And you're not the victim. It's very easy to play the victim card and to say, well, this happened in my life. I mean, I've had a lot of stuff happen in my life. I mean, everybody has. And it's easy to say, well, this happened to me, so I can't do that. But there's a lot of things I've overcome, even before I had this positive mindset. And you can change it. But it's not easy. You have to put work in. I mean,
So that's what I want to talk about next is like, what's some of that work that you can put in? Because again, you can sit here and listen to the last probably 30 minutes of what we've talked about. And if you do nothing with it, you will have maybe some knowledge that you didn't have before. But the amazing thing about what we're talking about is that it can actually lead to a real life transformation, but knowledge of it is not enough. Awareness of it is the start. You have to be aware of this before you can take action.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a start to realize that this is how I am, and I realize that I do have a fixed mindset. And the other thing is that you can have certain points of your personality or whatever, your mindset that are a little fixed. That's okay. But if you want to expand that and go into a growth mindset, you can have a little bit of both. You don't have to be 100% growth, because I'm not. But as long as you acknowledge that, yeah, I am fixed and this is how I've been my whole life, but I want to change it. I mean, you have that ability to change into a growth mindset. So that awareness is a huge first step.
Yeah.
So, just to put that out there. So
in terms of some tools and resources and things that you can do, and what we also want you to understand is this is not an overnight thing. This is truly a journey. This is a lifelong journey, because the hardwiring that we have, that default operating system that a lot of us still have, took a long time to build. And I will tell you, it will take a long time to change.
But it doesn't take the 30 years until you come to that.
Not at all. But don't go into this again. Remove judgment from this, and don't say like, well, I focused on gratitude for 28 days and I'm not exactly where I want to be. I guarantee if you do that for 28 days, drop me a comment down below if your life doesn't get better. Like, I want to meet you. Like, if every single morning you wake up and you write down 10 things that you're grateful for, and at the end of a month your life is not better, I want to meet you, because there's some crazy stuff going on. Because I'm telling you, it will, just doing that, just that one thing will change your life. And so what we really want to talk about now are those things of like, what are some practical steps that you can take to get started on the journey, understanding that it is a journey, and there is no finish line to this. There's never a point where you're like, I'm done. I don't need to grow. I figured it out. You don't get to that point. And so, I'll kind of start. I mean, we started off with gratitude. That's amazing. Like, I would make that step number one, because no matter where you're at in your life, even if you're already kind of deep in this journey, being grateful and making it a habit of being grateful and wiring your mind so there's this shortcut between, if you're going to have shortcuts in your brain, which you can't stop, your brain's going to create shortcuts, create beneficial shortcuts. And so make it such that the shortcut you have is when something that could be perceived as good happens, you key on it and go, oh, that's really cool. That's awesome. Like, that's a really, really good thing. That's something I should be grateful for and happy for. So that's number one, is just focus on the gratitude. I would say 10 a day for 28 days. That's going to kind of get you prepped for the magic. If you can only do 3, awesome, cool.
I think... And you don't even if you think about it, like even if you visualize.
But there's a lot of power to writing. There's a lot of power to writing.
I know, I'm trying to make it easy for everybody. But there's definitely power to journaling. There's just something about that physical writing, and I don't know how to express that more. But even like shortcut. If you want to just think about things in the morning and say them out loud, I'm grateful for this because, and there's something powerful about saying why you're grateful for it because of this. And if you can start your day with that, it's hard to, I don't know, it's hard to beat.
Yeah. One of the other tools that I have used really throughout my entire life for things is visualization. I have a hard time saying that word sometimes, so if I screw it up, visualization.
And
so,
we're gonna talk. We're gonna
do a whole thing about the power of visualization, because visualization is a very tangible way that you can start shifting your mindset drastically with enough time and work. And so really what visualization is again, when we get stuck in the familiar past, that's really what we know. And so a lot of times because we're so stuck in the familiar past, we don't have a vision of anything other than the predictable future. That's the only thing we know is what likely is to happen, right? We're prediction machines. We're always trying to predict the next thing that's going to happen.
List. What do I need to do the next day? What do I need to do today? What do I need to tick off?
And so if you want to break from that predictable future, you need to come up with a new future. And so by visualizing what future your life could look like, even though if right now today you don't know how you would get there, but if you can come up with a vision for your life that is better than it is today and better than you predict it will be tomorrow if you keep doing the same things, now you have something to latch on to that's bigger than the future that you're likely going to get without that. So creating that vision, digging in, and some people would call it finding your purpose or whatever. Initially, just start envisioning a future that's a little bit better than what it is. And what I really want you to focus on, and the power of visualization comes into when you can attach an emotional connection to that. When you can envision what your life could look like in the future, and then you can then envision how you will feel when that happens. And the more you can visualize that, the more you can come up with this actual picture in your head of what your life could look like. Again, you don't need to know how to get there. And that's what trips a lot of people up, is so many people's mindset is determined by what they know today, what their skills are. And it's that whole fixed mindset of, well, I could never have that life because I don't have X, Y, and Z that it would take me to get there. You're going to figure that part out later. So first, just focus on what you want that to look like, and then how you will feel once it's happened. And once you can create that emotional connection, that's what bridges your thoughts with your actual actions, is those chemicals that you produce with this emotion, where you now have this emotional connection to the future and you can see a brighter future. Then you can start to actually manifest that and bring it into reality.
To even take that a step back, because I mean, I have a career in medicine, so I don't have like this huge future purpose. I mean, this is my career. This is what I've set out to do. But even if you can start with just visualizing happiness, that's how I started. I just want to be happy. I want to be fulfilled. I want to love my life. I want to love being a mother in my career. And that just opens up so many different pathways. So if you can even just visualize your feelings. I know you were talking about like your experiences, then your feelings, but even your feelings, if you don't know, because I still sometimes don't know what my purpose is. I mean, but if I can at least try to attain that feeling of happiness, I think that's something easy to, well, not easy, but if you can try to visualize it.
Yeah. We don't want to throw too much at you guys today, because the point here is not to overwhelm you.
I know there's so much we want to tell you.
The point is to make you aware and to get you thinking. And to get you thinking, what type of mindset do I have? Do I have a fixed mindset? Do I subconsciously believe that like the way I am is the way I am, and that just can't be changed? And if you do have that mindset, I'm fortunate here to tell you it's not true. You can change. You can grow, and you can get better at anything, literally anything that you put time and effort into, you can get better. Will you ever be the best in the world at any of those things? Probably not. That doesn't matter. But you can get better than where you are today, and anything that you can get better at, you can combine and you can stack. And then over time, these small little changes that don't seem very much, simply just being grateful for a few things, that can have a snowball effect that in 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, years from now will have a massive impact on your future. So My challenge to you is to take the two things that we talked about today, gratitude and visualization. We're not going to go into anything else. Take those two and work on them until we see you the next time. And we'll have some more things. And our goal is to just sprinkle little things here and there on you that you can use to get better a little bit here and a little bit there. And again, you're not fixed. You have the power inside of you to do all of this. Lindsay has the power. I had the power. All of us have the power to create the destiny that we want for ourselves. It is not fixed. It is not predetermined, but it does come with work. It comes with action. It's not going to come easy, but I will tell you, it is absolutely worth it. Do you agree? Awesome. Guys, we had such a great time sharing this message with you today. If you like this, please hit the like button down below so that it finds more people like you who want to live a better life, a happier, more fulfilled life. We appreciate you joining us. We're looking forward to the next one. We haven't figured out what that's going to be. Might be something about parenting, might be something about relationships, visualization. We don't know yet, but there will be some value there. Tune in next time. We look forward to it. Thank you so much. We'll see you on the next one.